The kitchen timer went off just as I finished plating the last of the beef bourguignon. 3 hours of careful preparation, using the recipe I'd perfected over months of practice. Each portion was artfully arranged with pearl onions glistening in the rich wine sauce, fresh herbs adding pops of green against the deep burgundy. "Smells amazing in here," my husband Nathan said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Mom's going to love this." I wished I shared his optimism. In the 5 years we'd been married, Eleanor Blackwood had never loved anything I did. Tolerated? Sometimes. Acknowledged? Rarely. But loved? Never. "It's her favorite dish," I reminded myself as much as him. "You said she orders it every year at Le Bernardin for her birthday dinner." "Which costs $300 a person." Nathan kissed my cheek. "You making it at home is so thoughtful. She'll definitely appreciate the effort." Sweet Nathan. Still believing his mother would suddenly transform into someone who saw me as more than the girl who trapped her precious son. Never mind that he pursued me, that I'd been reluctant to date the CEO's son at the company where I worked. In Eleanor's narrative, I was forever the gold digger who'd stolen her baby boy. "Help me carry these to the dining room," I asked, gesturing to the carefully arranged plates. The Blackwood family birthday dinner was a monthly tradition. Whoever's birthday it was got to pick the meal, and the family gathered at Eleanor and Richard's sprawling estate. Nathan's sisters, Vivian and Cordelia, were already there with their husbands, champagne flowing freely. "Oh good, the food's ready," Vivian said without looking up from her phone. "I'm starving. Mom made us wait for you too." I bit back the response that we were actually 15 minutes early. In Blackwood time, anything less than 30 minutes early was late. "Leela made Mom's favorite," Nathan announced proudly as we set the plates around the table. "Beef bourguignon, from scratch." Cordelia raised an eyebrow. Ambitious. Eleanor swept into the dining room in a cloud of Chanel no. 5, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, diamonds glittering at her throat. At 70, she was still formidable, a former federal judge who'd never met a person she couldn't intimidate. "Happy birthday, Mom," Nathan kissed her cheek. "Leela spent all afternoon making your favorite dish." Eleanor's smile tightened infinitesimally. How thoughtful. We took our seats, Richard at one end, Eleanor at the other. The rest of us arranged by some invisible hierarchy I'd never quite decoded. I ended up, as always, in what I'd privately dubbed the interrogation seat, directly across from Eleanor. "Well," she said, surveying the plate before her, "presentation is adequate." "Mom," Nathan warned quietly. "What?" "I'm simply observing. Plating is so important in French cuisine." She picked up her fork, speared a piece of beef, and brought it to her nose. Her expression shifted, and not in a good way. "This smells familiar." My mother-in-law smiled at me on her birthday. "Like the canned diogi food my neighbor buys." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Vivian gasped. Cordelia covered her mouth. Richard set down his wine glass with a sharp click. Nathan's face went from confused to furious in 2 seconds flat. My husband and all de guests farozi. "Excuse me." Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. Eleanor took a delicate bite, chewing slowly with exaggerated thoughtfulness. "Oh yes, definitely. Mrs. Patterson, you know her, she lives 2 houses down. Has that ancient poodle. Feeds him some gourmet canned food that costs a fortune. Smells exactly like this when she opens the tin." "Mother," Richard said sharply, "that's enough." "I'm simply being honest." Eleanor dabbed her lips with her napkin. "Isn't that what family is for? Honest feedback." My hands were shaking. 3 hours. 3 hours of careful cooking, of following the recipe exactly, of hoping this might be the gesture that finally thawed her icy demeanor. And she compared it to dog food. "Leela worked all afternoon on this." Nathan stood, his chair scraping against the floor. She made it because it's your favorite. Thanks for the feedback. I smiled back. Then ADA'd. But I didn't cook this. Eleanor's fork paused midway to her mouth. I beg your pardon. I didn't cook this, I repeated calmly. Though I'm fascinated by your review. What are you talking about? Vivian demanded. Nathan just said you made it. No, I shook my head. Nathan assumed I made it because he saw me plating it in the kitchen. But I didn't cook any of this. Then whoa, Cordelia started. Why don't we ask the chef? I suggested. Richard, would you mind calling them in? All eyes turned to Richard, who had gone very pale. The chef. The one you hired for tonight. From La Petite Maison? Chef Bernard, I believe. Eleanor's face was a study in confusion. Richard, what is she talking about? Richard cleared his throat. I may have arranged for some professional help. For your birthday. As a surprise. Professional help? Eleanor's voice rose. You hired someone to cook my birthday dinner? Not just someone, I interjected helpfully. Chef Bernard trained under Julia Child. He's written 3 cookbooks on French cuisine. His beef bourguignon was featured in Bon Appetit as one of the 10 best dishes in New York. How do you know all this? Nathan asked, looking between me and his father. Because Richard asked my opinion when he was researching chefs, I said simply. He wanted to make sure your mother had the perfect birthday dinner. He even had Chef Bernard prepare a tasting last week to ensure everything would be exactly right. You knew about this? Eleanor turned to her husband. You both knew. I suggested you might enjoy having restaurant-quality food at home. Richard said carefully. Since you always talk about how inferior home cooking is to professional preparation. The silence that followed was deafening. So, I continued pleasantly, the beef bourguignon that smells like Mrs. Patterson's dog food. That's a $300 dish from one of the city's most celebrated French chefs. Eleanor's face had progressed from pale to pink to an alarming shade of red. I need to apologize to Chef Bernard. I stood. He's probably wondering why no one's commented on the meal yet. He takes such pride in his work. Sit down, Eleanor commanded. I remained standing. Actually, I think I should go. After all, my contribution tonight was just plating someone else's cooking. Though apparently, I can't even do that adequately. Layla. Nathan started. No, it's fine, I said. Your mother's made her feelings about my domestic abilities perfectly clear. Although it's interesting that she can't tell the difference between my amateur cooking and that of a James Beard nominee. You set me up, Eleanor accused. How? I asked innocently. By letting you assume I cooked something. By plating food in my own kitchen. Or by staying silent while you compared professionally prepared French cuisine to dog food. This is entrapment. No, Richard said quietly. This is karma, Eleanor. Everyone turned to stare at him. For 5 years, you've criticized everything Leela does, he continued. Her cooking, her clothes, her career, her family. Nothing is ever good enough for you. I have standards. You have prejudices, he corrected. You decided before you ever met her that she wasn't good enough for Nathan. And nothing she's done since has changed your mind. She's a secretary. I'm a senior executive assistant at a Fortune 500 company, I corrected, with an MBA. But you knew that. The point is, Vivian interrupted suddenly, that you just insulted one of the best chefs in the city because you thought Leela made it. What does that say about your refined palate, Mother? Eleanor turned her glare on her eldest daughter. Don't you start. Oh, I'm just getting warmed up. Vivian took a long sip of wine. Do you know what Leela made for my birthday last month? That chocolate soufflé you couldn't stop raving about. The one you said was almost as good as Le Bernardin's. What about it? She made it. Not a chef. Not a restaurant. Layla. In her tiny apartment kitchen with a 20-year-old oven. Eleanor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. And the Christmas cookies you special order every year from that boutique bakery? Cordelia added. The ones you give all your friends. Layla's recipe. She gave it to them 3 years ago when Nathan mentioned you loved their original version. That's not true. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to an email. Here's the thank you note from the bakery owner. Thank you so much for sharing your grandmother's recipe. Our clients can't get enough of these cookies, especially Mrs. Blackwood, who orders 12 dozen every December. Nathan was staring at me. You never told me that. You never asked. Just like your mother never asks about my life, my family, my interests. She's so busy telling me what I'm not that she's never bothered to learn who I am. I know exactly who you are, Eleanor said coldly. Really? What's my middle name? Silence. Where did I grow up? What did I study in college? What's my favorite book? What happened to my parents? I looked around the table. 5 years of family dinners, and you can't answer a single question about me. Those things aren't important. But my perceived inadequacies are. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Here's what you don't know, Eleanor. My parents died when I was 16. I raised my younger sister while finishing high school. Worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. Got my MBA at night while working full-time. Everything I have, I earned. I didn't know, she started. Because you never asked. You saw a secretary dating your son and wrote your own story. I picked up my purse. I spent 5 years trying to earn your approval. Cooking your recipes, wearing the brands you prefer, attending the charities you support. And for what? So you could compare my efforts to dog food. Where are you going? Nathan stood as I headed for the door. Home. To our apartment. The one your mother has never visited because it's too small and in that neighborhood. Leela, wait. I turn at the doorway. Chef Bernard is in the kitchen, by the way. He has 4 more courses prepared. I'm sure Eleanor will enjoy them now that she knows their pedigree. You can't just leave. Eleanor commanded. Watch me. And Eleanor, the next time you want to insult someone's cooking, maybe make sure you're actually insulting the right person. Although, honestly, comparing a James Beard nominee's signature dish to dog food says more about your palate than mine. I left them sitting there, the Blackwood family in all their dysfunction, with their professionally prepared meal growing cold. Nathan found me in the parking lot, catching up just as I reached my car. Leela, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Dad hired. That's not the point, Nathan. Then what is? The point is your mother was perfectly happy to humiliate me in front of everyone. The only reason she's embarrassed now is because she insulted the wrong person. She'll apologize. I'll make her. No. I turned to face him. I don't want forced apologies. I want basic respect. And if she can't give that after 5 years, she never will. So what are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. No more family dinners where I'm the entertainment. No more pretending her casual cruelty is just Eleanor being Eleanor. No more trying to win approval that was never available in the first place. She's my mother, Leela. And I'm your wife. When do I matter more? He couldn't answer that, and that told me everything. I drove home alone, my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. In our kitchen, small but mine, I opened a bottle of wine and heated up leftover pizza. Simple food that no one would compare to dog food because no one here would dream of being that cruel. Later, Nathan came home with apologies and excuses. His mother was difficult. She came from a different generation. She meant well. Did she apologize? I asked. She said she regretted the misunderstanding. The misunderstanding, I repeated. Not the insult. Not the years of contempt. The misunderstanding. Layla. I want a divorce, Nathan. The words surprised us both, but once said, they felt right. True. Because of tonight? Because of 1,000 nights like tonight. Because you sat there while she compared my cooking to dog food. Because even now, you're making excuses for her. She's family. So am I. Or I was supposed to be. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I heard through mutual friends that Eleanor had tried to spin the story. How I'd entrapped her, how sensitive I was, how I couldn't take constructive criticism. But Vivian told the real story at every opportunity. How her mother had insulted a famous chef's cooking because she thought her daughter-in-law had made it. How she'd been so blinded by prejudice that she couldn't taste quality when it was literally served to her on a silver platter. Chef Bernard, when he heard the story, offered me a job managing his restaurant. Anyone who can plan such poetic justice, he said, belongs in the hospitality industry. I took it. Now I spend my days surrounded by people who appreciate good food and good service, who understand that the person plating your meal deserves as much respect as the person who cooked it. And Eleanor? I heard she still orders the beef bourguignon at Le Bernardin every birthday. I wonder if she ever thinks about that night, if she ever realizes that her refined palate couldn't tell the difference between dog food and fine dining when prejudice was seasoning the meal. Probably not. People like Eleanor never really learn. They just find new ways to justify their old biases. But I learned something valuable that night. Never let anyone make you feel small for not meeting standards they themselves can't even recognize. And if someone compares your efforts to dog food, make sure they're talking about the right chef.